Here we are again. Week 2 has gone by, and I have managed to secure another manager for the OFLM podcast. I sound terrible, but Chris Hopton, long-time friend of mine, is on the show. Chris, welcome.
You sound like a bag of rusty spanners, you do.
You
Hello.
sound like a bag of shit, mate.
Yeah. I heard you sound this bad in about 10 years.
No. Little bit of background before we go on. I'm currently away training, and unfortunately I've come down with one of those head colds. We're soldiering on, getting on alright. Got some paracetamol, I'm feeling good about life. Chris, so basically I tried to get you involved in this game for some considerable amount of time before you joined.
Yeah, I remember being in the local pub. I think it was, it could be 7 years ago, I reckon. And you showed me this game, and it was really green, and I didn't know what was going on because I think I'd had too many sambucas. So I left you to it.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
This is generally how our nights out went.
That's until Jaeger bombs were invented, and then it got worse.
It got worse.
But anyway, I think you may have tried to introduce me again after that, and then that didn't work either.
There was a false accusation in there as well, which meant that you basically had to finish off.
Consume.
It got consumed. Yeah, you got to a point though where actually finally you decided to take the plunge.
Yeah, I think you might have bribed me in some way. I don't know, but I did it. Yeah.
Well,
and I never looked back.
We kind of we've kind of got you involved. Tell us how it went, where who you joined and that.
Well, it was January 2013, so I must have had some post-Christmas blues and decided this might be the pick-me-up for me. And you got me into it, and I joined FC Vikings, who were, at the time of joining, plodding around the playoffs in Division 4. It sounded like they'd been neglected for maybe a season or two, but they looked like they were in good stead. They had a decent coach, they had a decent team, they had a ridiculously good striker for that division who would plunder a few goals, and yeah, that seemed the perfect club to start with. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, so spent the first 2 weeks either not submitting or submitting a load of rubbish, and then have built from there basically. Yeah.
So it's all gone quite well for you.
It had done until last season.
Yeah.
Yeah. My rise has been fairly under the radar, but steady. So, as far as I recall, I think I joined halfway through season 14 and just missed out on the playoffs. Then got the playoffs the next season, having been in the top 2 for quite a while. I had a bit of a collapse at the end of the season, but got through the playoffs and got promoted. Then spent a season in Division 3 avoiding relegation and did that quite comfortably in the end. Then got another promotion via the playoffs in what was dubbed possibly the most boring final ever against Matt Myatt's Tolstoy, with I think 2 shots on target combined in the whole game. And then got promotion to Division 2 last year, of which was clearly going to be a problem for the team I had, and then promptly came back down, and I started the way I started this season, with a win and a draw. And that brings you bang up to date.
Doesn't it? Yeah. You clearly though managed to. We got some echo. That's nice. Skype, the joys of tech. You clearly though have a sort of a plan.
Yes.
Moving forwards, which Vikings were a team that they had a couple of managers plodding around for a little while. I think Sean Grace may have managed them at some point. Sean Grace, and then we had recently big Ron Atkinson, the caretaker manager, took them over for a little while to bring stability. Beardsmore, or was it? Who was the striker you had? Pemberton, wasn't it?
Padraig Pemberton.
I'm trying to think if Docco had a little spell there as well at some stage to get Pemberton in, but I'm probably wrong. But then you came in, and obviously, as you've just said, it's a classic sort of case of building slowly while making progress, which is exactly what you need to do in this game. And positively affecting your manager points. I would have thought. Obviously, even last season, it was tough for you, but you used that opportunity to try out a few things, didn't you?
I did. I thought I've got nothing to lose. I might as well try a few different tactics, different formations, and picked up more points than I expected to, and a lot earlier than I expected to as well. So even though I was rock bottom in the end, I can't really complain with how it went. Really,
It was a big learning curve, and the problem is that you were kind of like with the Tolstoy, whoever was going to win that game was going to struggle. But
yeah,
the jump from 3 to 2 is, I think I've said it before,
it's massive.
it's big. I think that the bottom sort of 4 or 5 teams that were in that mix with you in the relegation zone were top sides.
Well, yeah, you only have to look at the two that came down. Lawn Rangers, as they were, now Souls of Paranoia, Liberty City, who have both, they've clearly got quite a lot of cash and a lot of assets that they've been able to build. In some cases, sides that could even compete in Division 1. So,
yeah,
so it was always going to be a struggle.
yeah, the Souls of Paranoia, a tough season, problems, goalkeeper getting crocked, defence crocked constantly. You look at the midfield, look at the strikers, and you just can't. You shouldn't be seeing teams like that go down. But bad seasons, it's in the engine. They say it can happen, and that's blatantly what's happened.
I'll let the Chris
Possibly.
Brannan interview cover that one, shall I?
Well, I think we could discuss that if you feel it's appropriate. Potentially,
Well, no,
some.
I've got no issue. Clearly, I know that Jade came from Real Revolution, who had a goalkeeping training regime into a defending regime. Now, as my best guess, she might have still been training intense as you would with goalkeepers because there's no fitness loss. Might have continued to do that defence, and that's probably what spawned the injury problems. One could argue that maybe they could have toned it down halfway through, but they persisted, possibly for the long-term gain, which is fair enough.
Tactics.
So I can't argue that.
Yeah.
But others might.
Tactic-wise, very open. The gains you get, one hand you got the gains, you got your players are going to get something even if they lose. They're not going to get as much of the gains, but they're going to get something. But then again, you're losing that credibility, that sort of your club size is going down, and you're kind of the fans aren't going to be happy. There's going to be issues there long term, possibly quality of staff, etc., etc. Yeah, people have got their own views on it. We could sit on the fence, couldn't we? Or we could take a real left or right sided view of it. I'll put it. My shock is I was surprised to see him go down. I was surprised to see him change their name for 15 million. It's a choice, but 15 million is 15 million. It could be used to get something sorted for that team. It needs a rebuild. It's getting on in age. The good news is for them, they've got a lot of defenders that they could potentially offload for other positions, which is what a lot of the top sides are starting to do now. The likes of Harmless.
The defender market. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Oof, talk to me about the defender market. Well, it's a bit silly, isn't it, sometimes?
How's it affecting you?
I think I've seen, I can't remember who was selling, but I'm sure someone was selling a 19-year-old 19 rated or even a 20-year-old 19 rated
Villa
player.
Stripes.
They went for something. That's it, yeah, and they went for what, 22 million or something in the end, I think it was.
22.5 possibly, yeah.
Crazy money. But that's just the way it is, in a few years' time, probably, 3-4 seasons' time, defenders will probably become fairly well saturated and it'll switch to another position. My mantra, I guess it probably always switches between midfielders, defenders and goalkeepers because strikers gain fairly well. Midfielders may be the next thing to come along, who knows, but defenders ain't going, that market is going to be volatile for another number of seasons, easily.
Yeah.
There's so much demand for them. And that's why so many teams, even like myself, I've got a few defenders off and training in different clubs because that's what I need to do. I can't afford to buy them. and I can't necessarily afford to swap them in every case either.
Well, that's the case. I think with you've got midfielders that you're training, but that's the one you got to look at that position and go, might have to make a solution here. I might have to come up with some workaround, so to speak. I'm getting
Precisely.
worse. It's getting worse here. I'll tell you. I'm literally speaking through my mouth with me blocked nose. It's brilliant. Great. This. It's brilliant. We could have sound effects for this when I blow my nose in a minute. There we go. Let me blow my nose. This will be good.
Oh, nice.
That's beautiful. Did that make a good noise?
I felt some of it on my chin.
Beautiful.
It came out.
Yeah. There you go.
That's nice.
Yeah. So so you've got some defenders at other places.
I have. Yeah, I got a few dotted around. You've got one actually. You've got one. Chick Suter's got one. Matt Peters has got a couple of mine. I think that's everyone that I've got out at the moment.
Cool.
And I've got a few in my own team and maybe a couple up the sleeve as well. So
it ain't looking too bad. Big signings this season.
It's been a funny old window. I've been doing the last few windows. I've been kind of just bulking up the academy a bit, ready for the hopeful swappage of many players, because I've never had much in the way of a bank balance, and I still don't. I guess if I look at my signings, the biggest one had to be the sale of Guy Stock, my midfielder, who I sold to yourself. Got him back on loan, and as a result took on young Siggy Sondi, who's gone on loan now, and got Prime up front, which means now I've got a stable strike front two of at least probably 2 or 3 seasons now, I would have thought. That's by far and away the biggest signing, because there wasn't really much else going on in the way of big signings.
Good deal though, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, very happy with that deal. Very happy.
So you got
the 2 for 1 always works for me.
The 2 for 1 job with the loan as well. I think it was a loan for Esmo.
It was indeed. Yeah. And he's already got 2 assists this season, so I can't argue that.
No, he's Prime was just one of them players, like you see a lot of the best sort of teams sometimes get these strikers where they're sort of like getting towards the top end of their towards the better end of their career, the late 20s, early 30s, and they're sort of similar rated to their age, and they're not gonna. It's unfortunate. Prime, I had Prime since I was at Itty Bitty City, then it changed to It's a Revolution. I had Prime and I was persevering with him since he was 18, but obviously I've been playing 10 seasons now, so it's time to sort of look for him to go elsewhere. And obviously he was with you for a few seasons on loan.
Mm-hmm.
He's banging
him in. Did a good
in.
job last year in Division 2, considering my final position. He's still got a more than a goal every 2 game ratio, so you'd like to think he'd settle into Division 3 quite nicely, and he's already got 2 and 2, so as long as he keeps that ratio up, he's going to be a good signing.
I look to see you've kind of got that partnership there with Kaka as well.
Yeah, Kaka he's been building for a number of seasons. I think he's in his 4th or maybe even 5th season. 4th season I think with me now. Got him back along from Mike Bridge in one of his first few seasons in the game, when I seemed to take half his team off of him, and and yeah, he's had a few seasons developing, training at other clubs, and he's now in a good position to develop from here. 25-year-old, 27 rated, so he's got some potential, particularly at this level.
Absolutely. With Division 3, it's wide open. I mean, obviously you've got the top 2 teams on paper. You'd say Souls of Paranoia, Liberty City. Doco's done his.
Expect them. Yeah.
Doco's done his usual thing of getting the old gold in.
Oh, he loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's clever. He's Andy Dockett. He's been around the block. He's MPP's always high. Builds a team, gets a team promoted. What goes on long term? Well, it's that other side of the coin. We get the youth side, we get the sort of middle approach, and we get the middle approach, and that side that way you got the old gold. The old gold though is proven. Danny Maverick used to be the best player in the game at a 40 passing and a pretty much 39 shooting rated. The Lionel Messi of OFLM. Getting on a bit now in years, but still a force.
Still doing the job.
He's still doing the job. Division 3. Souls of Paranoia.
He will walk that. Yeah.
Both of them. But the rest of the teams, though?
Very close.
Not
I
much
think when
in
I
it.
did my preview before, when I totted up the various points using the Bonard method, I think there was probably, by the end of it, probably no more than 20 points separating about 4th place through to the place outside relegation. I think there was not a lot in it at all, and even that is no there's no steer for what the season's going to end up like. So I think it's going to be a really close season indeed.
Yeah,
anyone could go down, I think.
Well, I think every week you're looking at you got to have the tactics right. Games could go either way. Yeah, I mean, like, just all the teams there can be competitive. I think most of them. I've looked at the league table as such, but even all the teams that come up, the Seven Sisters are the good. I think the fact is that this Division 3 seems to be a league where teams get good loans in.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well is that Division 4, even since I've joined, has developed tremendously as well, in the fact that the teams that are coming up are now starting to be competitive in Division 3. I mean, you look at the way that all the teams who got promoted this year have strengthened. They're all in with a shout, even with a playoff shot. And in fact, I think 2 of them are in there, if I recall. Tweedside and Itty Bitty are already in there. So that's what makes it so close these days. I remember the days when I came up from Division 4, there were a couple of teams who came up with me who really didn't cut the mustard. No. But now they all seem to cut it.
They all seem to be able to get the results they need. You got yourself in there. What do you think of your start to the season?
I'm not too disappointed, if I'm being honest. I started with Souls of Paranoia. I knew that was always going to be a difficult game. I actually got the tactics not too bad, actually. They were pretty spot on, because although I lost 7-2, on paper it looks terrible, the game was a lot closer. I think we had about the same amount of shots each. It's just that Jade's team was more clinical. And then I had Vasco Veterans last week, which I always knew was going to be a tough game, and was made tougher when I went down to 10 men after 40 minutes. So to get a draw there was a good result.
Did one of your players try to spark out Brannan on the sideline?
Yeah. Reece Llewellyn decided that he'd 2-foot lunge one of their players, I think, and decided to spit in Brandon's face on the way past. I'm not really sure what that was about. So.
Off he went.
Yeah, and off he went. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll be a miss this week, but more than adequate cover there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Llewellyn's not a bad player defensively for you. Talk about some of your favourite players you've had or you have in your team that are kind of stalwarts.
Let's start with the one player who started me off, really. Let's start with Padraig Pemberton. He was the player I probably had most fun with. I remember the second season when I got promoted, he scored, I think it was 56 goals in 38 games or something ridiculous, and was the sole reason I got promoted, really. And I think he ended up plundering for me about 102 goals in the space of 3 seasons. So he will go down as a fan favourite without doubt. Guy Stock, who I've sold to you, most pleased with him, because I think when I started he was a 21-year-old 19 rated, and now he's a 25-year-old verging on 30 rated, so he's developed really well. Let me think about some other players. Bus Poyet is the one actually that's is worth a shout, because I remember when I bought him, he was 18-year-old, I think he was, and he was 14 rated. And I remember the forum post from Milo Dunn that said, whoever's bought him has bought a mug. And I always remember that one, because I thought I'm going to make him as good as I can, and now he's a 22 rated and verging on 23, so considering that, I think he's come up leaps and bounds.
One Milo got wrong. He didn't get much wrong, but that was one of them.
That was one of the ones I was determined to turn around.
Yeah.
And I think, probably looking at the current team, Maestroni at the back as well, my strongest defender, and he will he's not the best defender in the game, of course, but he's going to last me for a number of seasons, and he's because of his passing ability as well, he provides some extra strength there, which is always handy.
Good.
Probably the players I would call out the most. Yeah, because a lot of my players have moved on really over time, particularly from the midfield. Because I'm all about swaps at the moment.
Well, you've me and you've done a few deals. To be fair, I think you got a good end of them actually. 2-for-1 deals. Got a goalkeeper from me as well. I remember Lister.
Yeah,
A
he's still
couple
going.
seasons ago. Yeah, there's been quite a few players like midfielders over the years. Trying to think now.
Well, there's a couple of players that are still going strong. I think the part of the Lister deal I sent you Auckland, and he's developing well. And probably my best player that I got rid of to get in Maestroni and Menahem. I sold a guy called Peter Nugget to Chicxulub Tour, and I think now he's a 20 or 21-year-old, 25 rated midfielder. So he's going to develop really well.
Yeah. Nugget was a decent player for you, I remember. But the deal was too good to turn down. I remember that was your early days actually, because I remember you asking me about it. But like I said to you, defenders at the time, rare.
Yeah, at the time it was just before the defender market took off. So to get someone that was pretty much same rating as age at the time seemed a really good idea, and I'm glad I did it. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. When you look at your bottom two defenders, you look at the age, and you think they won't be around for much longer. 37 and 33, 20 rated.
They were only ever QoS buys to help get some of the other younger guys out. They're never going to be long-term replacements.
No. You've got to be happy with the signing of Kenneth Noisewater, 19-year-old, 20-rated defender.
Yeah,
now.
That was another player swap. Yeah, I remember swapping him for Michael Stephenson, and he went off to Perfect City, brought Noisewater in. Not the greatest secondary stats, but he's going to be a monster of a defender if he keeps going the way he is.
Yeah, well, definitely about that. Well, so we covered the Vikings. We're 22 minutes in. I think we were going to have a chat about current OFLM issues.
Yeah, there's a ton of them, isn't there?
There's quite a few going on at the minute. Where would you like to start?
There's probably... I'll list them first of all. I mean, I put a post on the forum a couple of weeks ago now, just named OFLM economy, because there's so much debate going around about QoS, agent fees, all that stuff that I felt we needed to address something. And it sparked a few things off, and there's still a few things that are left unresolved. So, I mean, you've got the agent fees that are climbing year on year. One of my ideas was the fact that although we have agent fees climbing, a certain percentage each season, about 0.5%, something like that, that's climbing every season. Yet the money we've got coming into the clubs isn't. So sponsorship, prize money, TV money, even the pools money, none of it's actually climbing. So the fear is, and I don't blame people, is that because more and more of us are having to spend large amounts of cash to buy big players. I mean, if you take our deal this summer, Deej, I think you had to spend, 30 million to get stock? And you had to initiate the deal, because I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
But eventually, if we keep hiking the prices of our outgoings and not hiking the prices of the ingoings, then eventually what will happen is that people will want to make that big transfer. Neither team will have the cash, and everything will go stagnant potentially.
And the only teams that will have the money will be the top teams and only certain clubs. So I can see that being an issue, possibly.
So, and I know agent fees was introduced to try and take money out of the game, which a lot of people don't like agent fees, but I think it adds a bit of realism. But you've got to have total realism. So if you're going to increase the amount of money going out of the game by a certain percentage each season, you've got to be fair and increase, for me, the amount of money coming into the game.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at clubs in real life, wages increase year on year because of inflation and other demands that players have got. But at the same time, TV money is going up exponentially. You can't have that kind of system necessarily in OFLM because it's not like you've got two TV companies fighting off against each other. But I don't see any reason why, if agent fees are rising by 0.5 or 1% a season, why you can't also distribute that same percentage increase across the money that's coming into clubs.
Certainly something to think about.
Yep.
Maybe something for the big man to think about.
Possibly.
Possibly.
I know Doco suggested as well about player swaps being a free thing. I don't necessarily entirely agree with that because even in real life, if a player swap occurs, an agent's still going to get involved and an agent fee is still going to be paid. But to that extent, it does seem a bit silly that you would pay the same amount of money to buy a player for the same amount of money that you're going to get back.
Yeah.
It would seem reasonable that if you took, I don't know, an average transfer fee for the level of rating of player that you're buying, perhaps, maybe that 5.99% charge for agent fees would be the only thing that therefore applies if you're swapping a player.
Yeah.
Possibly. Just a thought.
Just a thought. It's a good thought. And
yeah.
Well, we'll use Doco for an example. Doco, I think he's had a bit of a problem this season. I know we had lots of talks being him. Didn't quite get deals done. I wanted one of his strikers, Jardinho. Didn't quite work it out. Couldn't get the players to him for one way or another. But he's gone elsewhere to get older gold. But for him, the cash needed to get some of the deals through has been tough. I think he got a couple of players off Milo, or 3 players off Milo. That managed to go through all right, but he's always looking for cash to do these deals, these big transfers for these big players. Even if they're getting on in age, the player values of old players. Chris Conway made a good point to me a little while ago. He said, well, if you've got a 21 or 22-year-old wonder kid who's 28 rated or something like that, or 24 rated, 25 rated, 26 rated, 21-year-old, that value is going to be huge in real life because he's got lots of potential. He could become a great player. A player who is over 30, always going to be decreasing. Maybe like a 31, 30, 32, 33-year-old, 36, 30 plus striker or something like that. The guys aren't going to be around forever. They're good players, but their value is ridiculous. Look at Van Persie when he left Arsenal.
Yeah.
Didn't go for what you would call, because he was at his peak. He still got 20 odd million, but like it's not because his age is he's at the top end of his career. It was a more reasonable fee.
Oh, totally agree. I can't think of the last time a player over the age of 33 was sold to anyone for more than £20 million.
But it's got to be realistic as well. If something was to happen, and you've got a 21-year-old and a wonder kid type player, or a middle-aged sort of 23, 24 with a 30-something rated, it's got to be balanced because if you're saying, right, okay, now how much am I going to have to throw at this guy to get this player? It still needs to be sort of reasonable. So it works both ways. But yeah, food for thought.
Yeah. All food for thought. And then, of course, the other thing flying around, which has developed nicely, is the redistribution of TV money. One of the things I picked up and others were picked up on briefly last year, and it was highlighted when coming into the final game of the season, everyone looked at the Division 3 table and saw that the final game of the season was AC Valladolid versus Villa Stripes. And the winner was basically relegated. Avoided relegation. And now on the surface, that is a no-brainer for a TV game, you would feel. It would be in real life. Particularly if in Division 3 case, the title race was already over and the playoffs had drawn to a conclusion with the exception of, I think, one space. So logic would say, maybe a top-of-the-table clash would still go ahead. A clash for the playoff spots might happen and the relegation battle almost certainly happen. But because of the way the formula works, it generally gave those TV games to the top teams and obviously more heavily weighted to Division 1. But Callum Evans, very new to the game, he's come up with what is shaping up to be a decent looking formula with the help of a few people like Brannan and my brother as well. I think they've clubbed together and they've seemed to have come up with something that could well work. And although it's still not going to necessarily guarantee the relegation teams that TV money when they most need it, and when there's a big game involving them, it's hopefully going to give a fairer distribution.
I saw the formula was
Yeah,
sorry,
very complicated formula, but
I was
it
impressed.
does work. Yeah, it does work, and Callum did share that with me a few private messages before he posted it, and I got to say, for a guy that's only been in the game for 2 or 3 weeks, he certainly knows his stuff. Yeah,
He's come in, obviously trying to get his hang around everything else, but then goes and puts a pearl like that up on a forum. You're like, bloody hell!
yeah.
Kid's got spreadsheets on his head.
And that's brilliant. I mean, that's the kind of thing Seri will lap up. The amount of times I've seen
You keep
ideas
saying
come
Seri,
up,
they carry it.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I've seen
you love it.
ideas
You love saying
come
Seri,
up.
you do.
Seri, Kerry, I can't remember how you say it.
Anyway,
Call him Kaseri. There we go. So the amount of times I've seen ideas come up on the forum, and people say we need to change because of this, but then not provide a solution. It's no wonder that Kaseri turns a blind eye to these things. So
yeah.
So I think the only thing I would say is if people are going to come up with proposals, they need to come up with proper proposals. Not just this is what I think we could do, but this is how we could do it as well.
It's a good formula, and you've all had it. All of them. It's not just been Callum. It's been Jason, your brother, yourself, Chris Brannan's had a word. There's been a few people on the forums that have had a bit to say about it to help.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
good, and I agree. I totally agree. From my high tower, if it's a relegation battle, end of the season, that's going to go on telly. It's what's what happens in real life. If you've got the league, the tower versus Hitman last game of the season, but then you got a relegation battle as well, or a relegation battle, which is more important because the leagues are finished and they're done and dusted. You've just got to be highlights. It's not highlights. It's got to be the main event. It's got to be the one thing you watch last game of the season. If we were in a pub, we're having a beer, and the league's done and dusted, but the relegation battle ain't. All sorts of things could kick off at the end of the season there, in those type of games. I love watching it. There's bottle jobs. There's all sorts of things going on. It'd be brilliant telly. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. I like it. It's great to see people getting involved with it and being able to put it to Kerry. Because I mean, busy guy. Here you go. Here's your formula. This is good. Your decision. And just whether Kerry's got the time to sort of look at it and go, okay, cool.
And that's just all part of the bigger puzzle for me. That is the OFLM economy. How do we make it a little bit? I don't know if fair is the right word, but a bit more evenly distributed in terms of ingoings and outgoings.
Agree.
And I also said as well about there being a gulf between the top teams and the bottom teams, and there always will be. But it just feels a little bit too large. I don't know why. It's probably built up over a number of seasons, probably even before I've joined. I don't have any bright ideas of how to fix it, but I know Mike Bridge, for example, I think he fired a few ideas about perhaps the redistribution or the greater value of youth points for lower teams, for example. There are ideas flying about in that area as well, but they haven't really got the attention at the moment. Yeah.
Bridge had a good idea with the youth points. Youth player developments, players that you play yourself, with the emphasis being on you've got players gaining more for playing in the lower leagues, playing more minutes, but because that happens in lower leagues anyway, because some teams are able to play more youth because the situations they find themselves in. Division 1 and 2, I'll be honest with you, especially in my position, not many youth players are going to be playing. They'll have a few minutes here and there when possible, but if I play too many of them, I will be getting a kick in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Another Stockport Borough, like the first week, had Villaroo out, Frederick Villaroo, famous blind football player. But he's signed from Wesley. He's 18 rated. Can he make a few tackles? Well, he's played 58 minutes. He's been subbed off because possibly it might be a bit too much for him at the minute. But yeah, lower league. The more I play this game, the longer I play it for. Even from the high tower of the Division 1, you look at some of the teams down the bottom, 4, 3.
Mm.
There's
I
some
do.
teams really working hard to sort their teams out, like, yourself, Hopton, Vasco Veterans. If we go through Division 3, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 teams there that are trying to do the right things, like training defenders. They're trying to, they're rolling with the times. They're rolling with the academy setup. They're rolling with getting their players trained, getting players out, doing the old buybacks, the workaround, those sort of things. They're paying the agent fees for buybacks as well. I mean, let's not be honest and say that they don't go on, because we all know now they do. I've done
They
several
do.
of these, and
Without question.
people are all doing them because they have to get around it. But agent fees, you see, I like agent fees. I've paid out over 12 million in agent fees in the pre-season, which was a real tough, because I had to think about what I was doing. And believe it or not, the Tower haven't got billions of pounds tucked away in a bank. It's normally done on a bit of a budget. I think about what I'm going to be spending, especially now that I've got to bid certain amounts of money to get big players that I want to get in. So I'm having to think about it a lot more. And that goes for everybody. So I know I'm not the only person in that position.
Yeah, the other thing I do worry about as well is particularly in Division 4, some of these clubs who, and I think my cousin Rob has got a situation like this where your attendance is 6,000-7,000, but your stadium capacity is something like 50,000 plus.
Yeah.
That can't be good, because obviously that's going to cost you money every week, and if you're not getting the attendance, it's just potentially a spiraling circle of loss, and having to sell youth points and sell sponsorship money just to get the upkeep. When ideally, love him or loathe him, AD Burke, maybe lowering the stadium size might be the answer in the long run. But those teams who are down the bottom there, I do worry about some of those, because they might be in a position where it's very, 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 very tricky to get out of it.
Yeah. Spiral of defeat. Kerry put the posters up on the old forums. Spiral of defeat. You know what happens? It gets harder and harder to claw things back.
And whether you could do anything like the old Rangers situation, selling the stadium to create cash and then buying the stadium back when you've regained your position, I don't know. Little quirks like that probably aren't possible necessarily, but I do worry about those teams who are sagging at the bottom with massive stadiums and low attendances, because to get them out of those positions is going to take possibly, 20 seasons of work in some cases.
It's a classic case at the minute. You look at Breffany Blues.
Oh yeah.
This is a team that were a stalwart in Division 2 with Damien Murray. They actually were a Division 1 team at the start of the game. They've been playing since Season 1. And you look at their team now, it's a classic case of a team neglected, sat managers, people coming in, selling off a few good players and then just leaving it. And you look at that team now, there is absolutely no way, unless that team is given a cash injection of epic proportions, there's no way they're going to get out of the situation they're in, because they just haven't got any players who are any good, really. Players under, they've got the goalkeeper 29-24 rated, they've got their star striker 28-28 rated as their best players. The rest of them, the defence, 9 rated is their third and fourth choice, 5th and 6th are 8 rated. Who's going to save that club?
It would take a miracle. I don't think even the best managers in the game could save that in the short term. They might be able to attain a decent league position, but without loaning in players, and let alone the wages that come with all that as well, that is a lost cause, really.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Very difficult, yeah. Should we go on to something more positive?
Positivity. Can I blow my nose? Because this is... Yeah, I need to blow my nose again. Hang on a minute. So here I go. I'm moving the laptop. We get Russell. We get Russell. Blow my nose. Oh, and here comes Roy Turnham's just walked in as well. Oh, Roy Turnham on the OFLM podcast. Yeah. How you doing, Roy? Star striker, blind footballer. Anyway, so...
Well, there's that Russell, I assume...
That's the dog lapping from a bowl.
Underneath the porno mag. Was that underneath the...
Sorry? Can you hear me?
Porno mag, the tissues. Oh.
Have you got any... can you hear me all right?
Tissues underneath the porno mag. Was that the rustling?
No, no, it's a
I'm
dog
still
actually
here. Yeah, I'm
lapping
still
from
here.
the bowl. But yeah, well, this is good, isn't it? Because this is proper funny. People coming in, having a good time. We've got 10 minutes
Dog's having a
left.
lovely time. That is a very suspicious dog bowl situation you've got
It
there.
is, isn't it? It's
Sound
funny.
effect. That sound effect is not doing you any favours.
No, it isn't, is it? Pudsey the dog. Maybe I should put that on my soundboard for when I keep that one for another time. So moving on.
Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh yeah. All the nose again. Oh dear.
Hang on a minute. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, let's move on to something more positive, shall we?
Yes. You could have said that in a more positive way, couldn't you?
I could have, couldn't I?
Try again.
Let's move on to something more positive.
Oh right, that was okay. We'll let the others decide how that was.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange. Yeah, positivity. I'm shining through with positivity tonight. So, what were the issues you wanted to discuss? Any more?
I think that. I mean, I think we probably talked for a good 10, 15 minutes about issues there. We could have. So,
Tell you what, talk about
that's
the sort of plans for the future then with regards to managers you're working with, teams you think have impressed you, things that you think of long term that teams that you're working with and you're doing well.
okay. Let's think. We'll go position by position, I suppose, in terms of my buybacks and things. I mean, I've had a long-standing deal with Mike Bridge. I've got a young keeper out with him. I've got one of his young midfielders with me. I think that's been going on for 2 seasons now. It's into its third. Probably will continue for any number of other seasons, assuming there's no contract issues. So, and me and Mike have done many deals over the years. So I've got a good relationship with Mike, and he's a really nice guy and easy to get along with. In terms of defence, I've got a similar arrangement with Chick Sutur, I mentioned earlier, with a defender. A buyback again that's been going on for a number of years, and again will hopefully continue for a number more.
Yeah.
I've had Matt Peters. I've struck up a few deals with Matt Peters, particularly loan deals over the last few seasons. And Matt Peters is one of those guys who will happily loan players to pretty much anyone to help them out as well, which is an absolute credit to the game. Strikers, I mean, I've had deals on and off with Emlyn Brennan. I think he's got a deal with every manager in the game, looking at his squad. But nevertheless, we've got a good deal going there, which will benefit us both again. Trying to think of other managers I've done deals with over the years. Obviously, I've dealt with you a number of times on different players, so that's always been good. I like to help out new managers as well. I think I've got about 4 different players loaned out to Division 4 sides this year, helping them all out, which is good. Things I like to do there. I just got to remember my roots, really. I've come up from Division 4, and I was very lucky to have people that helped me out in the early days of my midfield academy. I got loans from yourself, Dan. I got loans from Sam Brown for a little while. Mike Bonard's given me a few loans over the years.
Sounds like the Tories of OFLM.
Yeah.
The Nice Guy Brigade.
No, it's been
good, isn't it?
It's been good in the sense that I think when I started, I had maybe 4 or 5 players under the age of 21 in my team. I'm now up to, I think, 14 on the last count, something like that. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have managers support me in the early days while it was building, and I'm in a position where I'm pretty much self-sufficient now. And it's only those managers who I do training loans who happen to have midfielders that still get into the squad that benefit, which is good. In terms of teams that are doing well, though, I mean, I won't talk about my brother because I don't want him to do well. He's in the same division as me, but obviously he's brought his team on quite well. That's all I need to say there. Mike Bridge, I've mentioned him already. He's doing a very good job in Division 4. I'm sure he'll get promoted this year with the team he's got. Moving further up, I mean, you've got to say Chris Brannan. He's got the mouth, and he backs it up with the team performance. His team have been rising and rising. One of his rivals, Tassi Tigers, I've been impressed by the way that team has climbed up the league, despite what Brannan may think. They're doing very well.
He loves it, doesn't
he? Yeah, and
but he don't like boring teams.
Oh yeah. I look at you got to love an underdog, haven't you?
He loved Rob Saxton last week.
Sorry, say that again.
He loved Rob Saxton last week, getting the draw with the Souls of Paranoia. Oh
yeah, that didn't appear to be any hint of sarcasm there at all.
None at all.
No, but
Saxton was apparently manager of the week in Division 3.
Well, yeah, I think you ended up playing the same tactic. I think he ended up playing the same tactic as me against Souls of Paranoia, except it worked a damn sight better than my version did.
And then Rob Saxton is actually playing against Brannan this week.
He is indeed. Yeah, that will be a very interesting battle. I'm predicting a draw there again, I reckon. But it won't be without bloodshed.
Yes. Blood.
Many blood, yeah. But that's in terms of teams that's doing well. I think that's probably wrapped it up there. I mean, I could go about Division 1 teams, but they serve themselves, really.
Yeah. I just looked at the table and I just look at that league now and I just think, oh, that's tough. Hello.
Yeah.
I can hear background noise.
It's Melanie. Hello. Oh, she says hello.
Hi, everybody.
I'm talking to Dan James. We're talking about football. Let's. Yeah.
That's going to go out to everybody. Cool. That is good. So yeah, I mean, like Division 1, it's a tough league, and but yeah, looking at like 2, Errigal United, Dublin Dominators, Olympic Milan. Oh, that's a tough one as well. Tillane Thistle, Ronnie Hutchinson, he's done well. Leicester Lightning, I could see that being a tough one. There's lots of good teams.
Division 2, yeah, that's looking very good. Dragon Revolution, of course, there's loads of teams up there. I remember last year the playoff race was a really tight one as well. Really tight one. And apart from Los Gringos last year and Aero Galaxy, who seemed to run away with it, the rest of the division was quite tight again.
There we are. We've talked about OFLM for quite a considerable amount of time.
How long are we going for now?
Well, long enough. We'll just check. About 40 odd minutes.
Nice.
50 odd minutes, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. We've done quite well. Got through quite a bit. Yeah. Waffled for quite a considerable amount of time. I can't imagine anyone actually listens to this for too long.
I've listened to them all.
Yeah, I listened to them.
It's been good, yeah.
I listened through the other ones as well, like Milo's and Mark's. They're pretty good. But, yeah, no quiz for you.
What? Oh, no quiz?
No.
Oh,
no quiz.
That's a shame. Never mind.
Yeah.
There's always another time.
There is. Yeah, right. I'll finish it there then.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Chris Hopton.
No worries.
And I wish you all the best for your season.
Yes, you too.
And I hope Guy's stock stays relatively injury free.
I'm sure he will.
Does the job for you, and I hope you keep feeding the prime.
I shall.
Feed the prime, and he will score.
And I hope that you shake this cold off.
Yeah, it's terrible. Flipping rubbish.